Hello, it is February the 26th, 2018. Welcome. Let's talk about Fibonacci analysis. What I'll be doing is taking these lows on Ethereum, the all-time lows. Well, I calculated on the spreadsheet. The lows about 155 handle, and 100 times higher than that at the 156 handle represents this high. I mean, this is like a 5% retracement to the 120 handle. This is a 38.2%. And then, of course, each level of Fibonacci going lower. The length from each number does get larger in distance. And it works, so I'm just going to stick with it. These numbers have been phenomenal, how they have played through. Let's take a look at this on a daily time frame, but just even scrolling back to from the point of the high, how it comes to this fib line, it supports it, then after resisting it down to this, it pierces below, which is fine, back up to this point, it supports here for a bit, it's a second test, it doesn't do so well. Perfect, again, piercing below support here. Notice it's always piercing extra up. And then you come back here after it had a decent rally on like its second attempt. Now its third attempt for support, it just fails. And now you're in a situation where you're like, okay, here's where you break down below support, a key level. You're looking at failed move, fast move, but you notice oftentimes this strategy does it. Because 3 times support was in at 75, it goes down to 65. It doesn't go anywhere near one of those lines, and yet it doesn't have the fast move. Well, it did develop the range, and you still know that when it breaks either side, it's going to have a good move, and you are going to think, okay, if it breaks support here, I'm looking at 52. If it breaks this area of resistance, I'm going to look for another test above the 0.1 number. And then there we go. It falls from it, goes right to the 52. It rallies up a little bit, then it breaks below it. Now you see signs of it resisting the 52. Ooh, so now you're talking about next support level. Of course, in this case, it didn't hit, resisted it. Then it hit the next support level after coming down here, after having 1, 2 levels of resistance and a big move, but coming back down to this level. Here we find resistance back to this point here and breaks through with a little bit of liftoff support there right to this point and no resistance. So what happens when you don't get resistance at a key level? Well, maybe you're going to find support at it, or maybe you're going to have a fast move to the next level. It was the opposite. This was a pierce lower. Usually it's either a hit right on, but more times than not it's pierce extra. And when you know more times than not it's pierce extra, that means if you're looking to buy down here, like, oh, so 268 is the key level, so you can go, I'm going to go 250. Well, that worked better, but either way it worked good. In this case, you're like, okay, so I'm going to sell here at 102. It's going to pierce extra. I'm going to sell 104. Well, you would have had to wait until it got above it the next time, but you see how it gets above it to this resistance point, back down to support, after resisting it to this line, and that's where we stand today. Okay, so these levels are working out relatively well. So we'll see how they process continuously as long as the price market action does manage to stay within this range. The range mainly will be obviously this high to this low, this high to this low. Really anything from where it's ever been, you can always talk about Fibonacci retracement. Let's talk about Fibonacci upside. I haven't calculated this. I'm going to calculate this now just to see how close this high and this low got to this high. I've already calculated this high, because what I'm looking for on Fib upside is an uptrend. Boom. Boom, is that a word? It's the, not using the B. But there's the uptrend, and it has to have a higher low, very good down price correction. And that's about as very good as it's going to get. Okay, high divided by low to the root of 1.618, multiply this low, will get us a number at 0.5 practically. It's 0.499s. It might even pierce extra on it too. We'll see. But that is the calculation for that number, which that means is when you notice and you can clarify that the levels are breaking above it, that the long-term level you're expecting to go to is that point. There's going to most likely be other shorter and mid-term resistance levels along the way, but the big one in at 0.5. Okay, back in here. You're looking for an uptrend, which was obviously here, making the higher low. So did this, which we'll use the number in at around 333, going down to 77.5. Let me calculate that number. And the up target majorly pierced above it. It's 83.44 from this high to this low. Now, and one interesting thing I'm just thinking about now is, okay, well, what was the 61.8% correction? And instead of caring where this goes, why don't I just, another way of thinking is, what I'm looking for is an up move that basically stops going up and either corrects decently through time or through price. And regardless of how much it corrects through price, take what the 61.8% down move is. So it would be this number divided by the 61.8% number, wherever that happens to be, to the root of 1.618, multiply again by the fib number down here. And I'm going to calculate the fib number first. And I've had to move the scaling, but the key numbers are 1,000 and 500. So I'm going to use this 500 number, this number divided by that, and then see what the up target happens to be. That gives me a price objective to 0.129. So when we go to where we stand today, 0.129, well, sure as heck a lot better than the 86 number was. So within this one here, this, let's see, which, then I'm looking about, as far as the next up target, which I've already calculated at 5, that's practically a 61.8% correction. From, in this high, which one do you use? This is interesting when you determine. For this low, do you use the breakout low in here because it really went off from this point, or do you use this actual low in here? Well, 61.8% down from this level. It's 23.91. And I don't know why my screen does that when I use my mouse in that level, but anyway, 23.91. You know what? That's pretty much right, a perfect hit. What's the low on here? 2375. So this is the 61.8% correction. I feel very confident, even more so now, that on the break of resistance, that the upside target is 0.5. Everything that it moves from 0.15 all the way down to its all-time low can always calculate levels using forms of Fibonacci retracement. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.